Hi everyone, welcome back to Herky the Cavalier's channel. My name is Mai, this is Herky, this is Milton, and do you guys not love these Cleveland Cavalier jerseys? I mean, this is the cutest thing that we've added on the boutique so far according to me. But it's dog jerseys and it's just so cute and they're very proud to be wearing them. And if you like my t-shirt, it's our new Cavalier t-shirts that are now available in a round neck as many of you requested. So I hope you check that out. I'll be linking everything you need to know down in the description box below. And just a disclaimer, I'm talking really weird today because I have two canker sores. Excuse me for the TMI, but it's hurting so much because a few days ago I picked up Herky in the car, or from the ground to the car, and she banged her head under my chin, and then I bit the inside of my lips, and then it became two canker sores, and it's so painful anyways. So that's why I'm talking weird, just so you know. So today we're going to talk about a subject that's the most requested topic on our channel, and that is emotional support animals. This is a question that's asked very often, but if you'd like to see the other questions that are super commonly asked, I'll refer you to the Q&A video that we did really recently. So in this video, I'll cover everything you need to know about emotional support animals, or also known as emotional support dogs, what they require, registration, what you need for housing or for flying, and then if you do have any other questions, do leave them in the comments below, but I'll do my best to try to cover all the topic. So emotional support dogs or emotional support animals are animals or dogs that are prescribed by a licensed physician or therapist in order to provide comfort, affection, and companionship to anybody suffering from mental illness or emotional conditions. Emotional support animals and emotional support dogs are actually not the same as service dogs. They are not required to perform certain tasks unlike service dogs, and service dogs actually require extensive training to be able to respond to specific conditions from their users. Basically, I'm going to call them ESA, emotional support animals. Basically, ESAs are just there to provide comfort and unconditional love for you, and they're just there to support you emotionally and mentally if needed. So the most common conditions that ESAs are used for are anxiety, depression, mood disorders, panic attacks, fears and phobias, and other psychological or emotional conditions. So ESAs are usually recommended or used when people need to have their dog for specific housing conditions and for flying. There's a lot of housing complexes that do not accept animals, and when you do have an ESA, then that's an exception to the rule. Also, another situation where they're commonly used is for flying. Of course, a lot of people have phobias of flying, and that's why ESAs come in very handy and are very useful. However, ESAs are not considered service dogs. Therefore, in restaurants and public parks, or in most public areas where dogs are not allowed but service dogs are allowed, ESAs would not be allowed still. So that's the main difference between the two. So how do you know if you qualify to have an ESA? This really depends on your physician, and this is the number one requirement for having an ESA, is if you have some sort of mental or psychological condition that requires you to have an ESA. This is up to your doctor or your physician, your therapist, to determine that you need it. For me personally, I'm just going to go back on how it happened. It was actually during the trip of our wedding. We got married in Greece, and Herky stayed at home. Milton didn't exist back then. We didn't have her yet. And we finished our wedding trip in Paris, and Herky wasn't with us. She was with a sitter back at home. And I think 2 days before we came back home, we got a super alarming message from our sitter, and it literally said 911 emergency. And it was like 11:30 p.m. at night when we were in Paris, and we were so panicked. And when we called the sitter, Herky was actually taken to the emergency vet clinic because it appeared that she had a seizure. And I remember being so taken back by the event, and I didn't know what to do. I was just on my phone trying to book a first flight home, but we were supposed to go home like 2 days after, you know what I mean? And I just felt so helpless being so far and not knowing what was going to happen to her, and she was not with us and we didn't know what was happening or why it happened. And you know how it is at vet clinics when you come in with a dog that's sick and you just kind of explain the symptoms, and then they're like, well, it could be this, it could be that, and then they make you do like 12,000 tests and it's still not conclusive, and then they tell you to wait till the next episode happens and to do further testing. I mean, I know they're trying their best, but you never get a definitive answer. And that's what happened with Herky. They did a bunch of tests. They didn't know what happened. They told the sitter to keep an eye on her, and they even suggested to leave her overnight for observation, but then our sitter decided not to. And so that just caused us like so much anxiety being like away from her and not knowing what was happening. So I would say that's the start of when I felt like I really needed to be with them, and I started having a lot of separation anxiety, me towards the girls, and I just always wanted to be with them. I never wanted to travel without them anymore, and it actually caused a lot of tension in our marriage as well, because every time Andy wanted to go on vacation, I just said no. Like, I can't leave again. It's gonna happen again. She's gonna get sick again. Like, what if something happens again while we're away? And so we went to consult our physician, and she decided to write us up a letter to allow us to travel with the girls. And that's how we started traveling with the girls as ESAs. So again, just to recap, that would be the number one requirement, is that you consult your physician in order to get a letter. The letter also needs to be very specific. It needs to have obviously your name and your personal information. It needs to mention what kind of condition you have and that you require your dog or your dogs as ESAs. Also needs to have their name and certificate or license number, and the letter has to be less than 1 year old. So it is a letter that you need to get renewed every single year. As far as training, you can put your dog through some training to be an emotional support animal, but unlike service dogs, they do not require it. I know there are some programs and some schools that give you certifications and classes for that kind of things, but just know that it's not required. Your dog just needs to be under your control at all times, so leashed is fine, and your ESA cannot cause disturbance or harm to other people. As far as registration, also, this is not required. Some people for housing do ask you for registration papers, but do know that your letter from your physician is enough and you don't need anything else. You can also have a vest that says emotional support animal, a collar, a tag. Those you can get online like super easily, but those are not required as well. It does allow for people around you to be more conscious that they are ESAs, but it's not required at all. Some people do like to register their dogs just to have like the paperwork ready to make it easier at the airport, but we've never had any issues at the airport with the girls, and all you need is the ESA letter. And even then, I wanted to mention that when you travel by plane with them, do check your specific airline's requirement for ESAs. For my experience personally, we only fly with Air Canada with the girls, and their requirements, I think, is to contact them 6 weeks prior to departure or something. Or what I would recommend is the sooner the better, because you can actually have like your reserved seats. So that's really good. But all you need to do is inform them, send them the letter of your physician, and then they're going to be well advised before travel. And then when you check in with the girls, they just ask you to see the letter at the counter, but we've never had any issues with it. And when people refer to ESA certificates, again, there are some websites online that say you can register your dog and get a certificate here. Technically, your physician letter is your certificate and you don't need anything else. Again, I mentioned that the vests are also optional. The ones that we have, and we don't use them very often, only when we travel, is the Julia's Canine Harness, and then we got the patches on Amazon, I believe. The little dog tag on their collar is also from Amazon. I'll link the links down below if you need. And also, there are no restrictions as to the breed and the size of the dog when you want to use them as an ESA. If you do like to travel with your dog and you would like to see what we do with the girls when we travel, I'll link our travel series up here, and you can have a look of how it is when we travel with the girls from the airport, all throughout the flight. And yeah, it always goes super well. So I hope this video was helpful and it answered most of your questions, but if it didn't, please leave any concerns, comments in the comment section below. And we love you so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.